multitude gather on America's legendary oval, one should expect Star Wars.
Dangerous and disturbing this puzzle is.
Puzzle? This is actually the Miller Lite 250.
What do you know?
Well, I know there are several drivers ready to race well here.
We must stop them before they're ready.
Lightsabers? We don't need no stinky lightsabers.
I hate it when he does that.
What about when I do this?
Checkers for Michael Andretti.
Michael may have already won a race this season, but who's leading the points standings, Yoda?
You are.
Follow that speeder!
The big question is, who will win today?
We will find out, I promise you.
CBS Sports welcomes you to a summer of cars, the CBS Auto Racing Series, kicking off today with round 4 of the CART FedEx Championship Series. This is the Miller Lite 250 from the Milwaukee Mile, America's legendary oval at the Wisconsin State Fair Park. Welcome to a place that embodies the American tradition of oval track racing. For some 99 years, drivers from across the world have been coming to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to the Milwaukee Mile to test themselves in this crucible of speed. Today kicks off a run of 6 races in 7 weeks for the CART FedEx Championship Series stars, but you can be sure of one thing: every driver in this field, confident and relaxed right now, is looking ahead to 250 hard laps of racing on this great racetrack. Let's meet 2 of them now, standing by with Ralph Shaheen.
Adrian Fernandez has been the fastest man on the racetrack all weekend long here at Milwaukee. So fast, in fact, that he almost lost the car during qualifying. Now, Adrian, you have been quick here all weekend. You tested here earlier in the year when the conditions were a little bit cooler, like today. Will that be an advantage for you starting on the pole?
I hope so. The car has been running very consistent in cold and hot conditions, and you know, to be able to stay on top is difficult. Like my engineer Don Holiday said, you know, there's just one way to go, and from here, and it's going down. So the car has been very consistent, and we feel pretty confident the car will be good for the race.
Patrick Carpentier, on the other hand, has struggled all weekend long. So much so, Patrick, that you actually brushed the wall at one point during practice yesterday. However, you qualified 3rd. Where did this sudden burst of speed come from?
Hey, I don't know. I think the guys, the players team did a fantastic job. They changed some stuff on the car, very little, and it was a huge change for me, and the car was a lot better. So it was good this morning. Hopefully, we're going to have the same conditions in the race, but let me tell you, when the tires get old, it's going to be a lot of work.
Best of luck to you today, Patrick. Let's go down to my colleague now, Jan Beekes.
And Ralph, I'm here with a couple of guys who were busy last weekend in the Indy 500. To my right, of course, Michael Andretti. To my left, his teammate, Dario Franchitti. And Dario, any advantage at all running Indy last week and then coming here?
No, absolutely not. There's you know, the fight's a track. There's not a lot else you can compare.
Now tell me, you come here as the point leader. Do you approach this race any differently?
No, absolutely not. This is, you know, it's very early in the season. We're looking for wins right now. We're looking for as many points as we can. We'll be going flat out.
Well, he's looking for wins. Best of luck on getting your first oval victory. Now, he may not have any oval wins, but this guy certainly does. 14 altogether, but 5 of them here. Why? What's special about this place?
I love it. I think it's one of the best ovals in the world. You know, it's a true oval. It's flat. It's wide. You can pass, and it seems to suit my style. It's just a great track.
You're not superstitious at all, are you?
No, not at all.
Good thing, because he starts today in 13th spot, which, by the way, he won Toronto one time from 13th. Look for Michael to go to the front. Bob?
All right, thank you, Jan. No question, Michael Andretti's name is synonymous with Wisconsin State Fair Park and the Milwaukee Mile. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Derek Daly. Proud to bring you the CART FedEx Championship Series here on CBS Sports. Derek Daly has finished 3rd in a champ car here in the Milwaukee Mile in his long racing career. Derek, we have only 2 rookies in the field, 4 former winners, a lot of experience out there.
And Bob, I'm not sure experience might be good or bad this afternoon. Let's take Michael Andretti, for example. Almost 20 years ago, when he came here and was taught how to drive around, probably by his dad, Mario, he was told, charge deep into the corner, make it like a diamond, turn and charge out. Do you know that he still employs that old-fashioned style today? Now, the road racers have since come in. They take a long, long arc, which by themselves, I believe, is faster. But Michael believes his old-fashioned style of the diamond can allow him to duck and dive and be much more efficient in race conditions in traffic.
But that's not the only winning style here. We have 3 other former winners in the field.
Jimmy Vasser, of course, is one of them. Now, Jimmy, I will tell you, his grid position that you see later on does not represent the speed Jimmy has in that car. This morning in the warm-up, he was second fastest, so we look for great things from Jimmy today. And then there's Kenny Brack. You know that Kenny Brack was brought in to win this championship for Chip Ganassi. They then employed a third driver along with Bruno Junqueira called Scott Dixon. Chip Ganassi was asked why did he do that? Well, I want to win the championship. Wasn't Kenny brought in to do that? Interestingly enough, Kenny's the winner here last year, and Kenny also is now under pressure. He is yet to out-qualify Junqueira. They bring in the young whippersnapper from New Zealand, Scott Dixon, and he also out-qualifies him. But I believe Kenny Brack has the mental strength to withstand any pressure. You'll see him shine. Maybe today, but definitely during the season.
There's some interesting chemistry on that team, no doubt. Now, as Jan Bikas mentioned, several of the CART FedEx Championship Series drivers took part in last weekend's 86th running of the Indianapolis 500. The top finisher among that group of 8 was Paul Tracy, who may have been second, may have been first in the world's biggest automobile race. With more on that story, here's Ralph Shaheen.
We have posted the official results for the Indianapolis 500, the 86th running of which took place this afternoon, and they are unchanged from the unofficial results.
My opinion is I feel I won the race.
I definitely still feel that we won the race.
The pass that was or wasn't, that was the hot topic in racing circles this week. Did the pass happen before or after the yellow? Here's what Paul Tracy recalls.
I had the draft. He had blocked the inside to stop me from taking the inside line from him. As we approached turn 3, I swept to the outside, made a pass on the outside of turn 3, went through the turn, and when I came out of the turn on the other side, I saw that at turn 4 the yellow light was on, and everybody's heard how I reacted on the radio. I felt that I'd won the race. I still feel that I won the race, but it was taken away, so it's something that we need to see the evidence that I didn't win the race. I'm leaving it in Barry's hands. That's his job. My job now is to drive the car and to drive the car to the best of my ability here on out.
I owe it to my whole team, some of them who weren't involved with that car that day, but guess what? They're involved in the effort, and it's a big effort. If I think that I finish first, I've got to fight.
For now, Team Green will concentrate on fighting it out at the Milwaukee Mile. Barry Green has until 5 p.m. tomorrow to file an appeal. But what will he do?
After we protested, I then went on to say that if someone can show me that I'm second, I'll walk away from this protest. And I guess that's where I'm at today still.
Well, Barry Green has until 5 p.m. Monday afternoon to file that appeal, and you can be sure the story of the 86th Indianapolis 500 is long from over. But this is a new day, a new weekend. The week after the Indianapolis 500 is another long tradition on the Milwaukee Mile, and Paul Tracy and the rest of the field are about to get the command to start engines. We'll be back to get things underway from the Milwaukee Mile in just a moment. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile. There's the view from our Honda Helicam. Right now, let's get down to trackside, where the most famous words in racing will be delivered by the governor of Wisconsin, the Honorable Scott McCallum. And that's exactly what he has just done. The engines are firing up and down the pit lane. The field of 19 will be rolling off shortly. It's a cool and overcast day here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. After 2 days of blue skies and soaring temperatures, including temps up around 93 degrees for yesterday's round of qualifying, today it is very, very cool and breezy. And Derek Daly, that will be good for the race cars.
Exactly, it will. Yesterday it was so hot it became slippery. Qualifying was a major problem for many, many drivers getting loose on an oval track. You do not want to get loose. Today, cooler. You see in the 60s,
Cool, dense air gives these cars more downforce, which gives more grip and actually gives more horsepower from the engines. So the cars that maybe, Bob, had marginal balance and handling suddenly improved today just because the temperature is cooler.
You notice the cockpit temperature for the drivers, cocooned in their fireproof suits. It was 138 degrees yesterday, 90 today. Now let's take a look at the starting grid for the Miller Lite 250. On the pole, Adrian Fernandez, third of his career, second of the year. He'll start alongside that controversial finisher from the Indy 500, Paul Tracy for Team Green. On row 2, Patrick Carpentier, the Canadian, had a huge crash Saturday morning, but came back courageously to put his car the inside of row 2 alongside Scott Dixon, last year's Rookie of the Year. On row 3 will be Bruno Junqueira, pole sitter for the Indy 500 and winner of the most recent oval track race in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. He'll start next to Japanese driver Shinji Nakano, his best start of his kart career. On row 4 will be Cristiano de Mata, who won the first race of the season in Monterrey, Mexico. He'll start alongside Brazilian countryman Tony Kanaan, who has yet to see a finish in 3 races this season. On row 5 will be the Flying Scot, Dario Franchitti, starting alongside Japanese driver Tiger Takagi. On row 6 will be Alex Tagliani, Patrick Carpentier's teammate with the Players team. He'll be alongside Jimmy Vasser, one of 4 former winners in the field and the second fastest man in the morning warm-up session. On row 7 will be Michael Andretti, the all-time winningest Champ Car driver here on the Milwaukee Mile with 5 victories to his credit. He'll start alongside another former winner in Kenny Brack. On row 8 will be Christian Fittipaldi, way back in the field, but surprisingly the fastest man in the morning warm-up. He'll be next to Mexican rookie Mario Dominguez. And on row 9, Max Pappas, Mad Max, the Italian, starting alongside Mexican Michel Jourdain, having the best season of his 7 in the Kart FedEx Championship Series, though he is well back on the final full row in this field, because behind him on row 10, all alone sits Townsend Bell from San Luis Obispo, California. He, like Tony Kanaan, is looking for his first checkered flag of the season.
And Bob, Pat Patrick, who owns Townsend Bell's car, does not enjoy seeing him back there. In 30 years of entering cars in Champ Car racing, his driver has never, ever qualified last.
Here's our race analysis. The track is actually slightly longer than a mile, so the 250 laps will produce 258 total miles of racing. A new rule in the Kart FedEx Championship Series this year calls for maximum pit intervals. It's based on fuel mileage. Today, the cars may go 68 laps, no farther from pit stop to pit stop on a tank of fuel. That fuel allotment is based on 1.85 miles per gallon of methanol.
The reality of it is the teams up and down the pit lane here have got more than 2 miles per gallon quite easily, so they probably will not fill it to the brim every time they stop. They simply don't need to carry 35 gallons around with them.
And the idea is to give each driver more than enough fuel to go flat out from green to checkered flag. 7 sets of tires per car. The pit lane speed 50 miles an hour. Let's talk about the track, Derek.
Looks very simple. In fact, it's quite difficult as we send our car around here. Turns 1 and 2 are very bumpy on the inside. You'll see a surface change down through here. We get speeds in excess of 195 miles an hour, 198 yesterday. Also a surface change in through here. Now, because of low downforce, we will see gear changing, up a gear down here, and then we will see they'll actually turn into the corner before they'll down change down through here. Gears, of course, being used to keep the power band of the engine right up on peak power.
We expect the green flag next time around. The track is wide and fast, though it is a bit bumpy. Every driver in the field loves this racetrack. We have onboard cameras, the pole-sitting car of Adrian Fernandez. Upshift and downshift, as Derek mentioned. This is Paul Tracy wearing our visor cam, a tiny camera at his eye level, giving you the best view possible of what he sees. Bruno Junqueira will have a camera on board as well in fit spot. And Jimmy Vasser also has a visor cam as the green flag waves. We are underway, and the cars immediately go 3 and 4 wide, headed for 1.
And guess who's leading? Paul Tracy around the outside, just like he did at Indy, managing to take the lead from Fernandez.
Paul Tracy is the embodiment of the aggressive racing driver. Just 15th in the championship coming into this weekend, but he has never been one to race to a championship plan. He simply wants to see checkered flags.
You can hear them on the rev limiter down this front straight here as they sort out what gears they want to use. They have 6 or 7 speed gearboxes in these cars, and the variety is, I mean, half the field has 6, half has 7.
Jimmy Vasser in the shell car for Team Rahal, going slowly. We mentioned that he started well back in the field. He was among the fastest cars all weekend, but overcooked turn 1 in qualifying and waved off the second lap.
And there's the gear changing. There's the black patch, very bumpy in turn 1. He'll change gear right about now. There it is. Max Pappas made a very early pit stop, came right in, did something, went back out, but didn't lose a position because he was at the back of the field anyway.
Been a very tough year for Jimmy Vasser in the yellow and white car, the shell colors for Team Rahal. A former series champion. He has had 2 DNFs, did not finish in the first 3 races of the year, sandwiching a second place showing in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, a race he might have won, but for some spectacular pit strategy and race driving by Michael Andretti, who picked up his 42nd victory of his career.
Turn 1 is tighter, believe it or not. The drivers come down earlier, hug the inside around the apex. Turn 3 and 4 historically, and today also, tends to be a long left-hander around the outside of the top of the bowl.
Things happen very quickly on this 1-mile track. The laps average about 23 seconds. So if we go green, 250 laps will not take long at all.
Scott Dixon still hangs on to that second place. Fernandez was spectacular yesterday in qualifying. He was also the fastest car at the end of Friday's session. So everybody believes he's the one they will chase. However, right now, not quite so.
There's Michael Andretti on the charge. He started 13th. He is all the way up into 6th in the first 6 or 7 laps of this race.
Guess what? And this is what we're going to watch closely. Can his old-fashioned diamond the corner style that his dad Mario taught him be to his advantage here? It has been 5 times in the past. He is brim full of confidence going in here, knowing he can use that style.
Let's get down to Ralph Shaheen in the pit lane.
Bob, and talking to Michael the other night at dinner and discussing that line, he said the advantage that it is, he says he turns into the corner much earlier than everybody else, and the reason why he likes it is because he feels during the corner he gets more clean air than everybody else who's running single file almost in that upper group. He thinks he can sweep through there quicker. It's a slower line as far as lap times go, but faster overall throughout the course of the race.
That's a great point, Ralph, and if you can think of 250 laps here, that's 500 times potential of an advantage for Michael to be able to duck and dive down to that nice, clean air.
And there is Scott Dixon, the surprising rookie, last year a rookie, winner of the Rookie of the Year award, now in his 2nd season, switching over from PWR Racing, the former Pac West team, for those of you who follow Champ Car Racing, now with perhaps the strongest team in the pit lane, Target Chip Ganassi Racing. And he has taken full advantage with virtually no testing time in this car whatsoever. He put it 4th on the grid for today's race, and currently he runs 2nd to Paul Tracy.
A road racer who uses road racing styles around these corners by himself. He is definitely faster, but Scott Dixon understands oval tracks, as so many road racers do, very quickly. And of course, remember, he is still, I believe, the youngest kart driver ever to win a race at Nazareth.
Derek,
or anywhere.
Drivers like Mario Andretti and Jackie Stewart saying that it's much easier for a road racer to come to oval racing than the other way around.
Absolutely. Historically, we've seen it many, many times. The pure oval track racers just have difficulty making the transition to the duck and dive style of a road racer.
Now our pole sitter, Adrian Fernandez, you see there, is now in 5th place. Jan Bikas.
Well, I checked with the team to find out if there's any mechanical problem. They said, no, we're A-OK, but they were not very happy with the way the start took place. CART is very specific on the way they want the pole sitter to bring the field up. They thought they did the job that they were supposed to. They felt other people took advantage of them. But of course, that's what racing is all about, trying to find a way to take advantage of the rules and get a strong start.
And let's argue about that later on. Right now, if you have the fastest car, start chasing down people like Kanan or Nakano. Shinji Nakano, of course, is Fernandez's teammate, so he benefits from all the setup information Fernandez has also.
A quick check with race control as you go on board with Adrian Fernandez. It was a legal start.
Was a legal start on board. Look at the white button on Fernandez's steering wheel, right by his right thumb. The white button there is his traction control unit. Here it is right here. That's traction control. Why would they use that? Believe it or not, exiting the pits. They want to have complete control of the traction and don't get themselves in trouble.
And he just went to that button before taking the gear up one and then down one. We should talk a little bit about this idea of having two top gears in the race car, Derek, and shifting both into and out of the corners.
Basically, here the wing package is controlled. They have less downforce than they've had in years past. Less downforce means they cannot maintain the momentum or the high speed through these corners, so they need a gear for the corners to keep the engine up on peak power. Of course, with low downforce, they simply fly down the straights almost 200 miles an hour. That's why right there you see Fernandez select a second gear. And Bob, even without pit stops on an oval track, they'll do more than 1,000 changes this afternoon.
Flashing down the backstretch. Not a long one here on the Milwaukee Mile. The turns are very, very long. Another reason the drivers like this track so much.
We're monitoring car radios. Tracy has just come on and said his car is good. Christian Fittipaldi said he gets push. He gets a little bit of push when he's behind Bruno. Christian running in 14th place. Junqueira currently in 13th.
This is a look at Tony Kanaan. Perhaps the most personable driver in the pit lane. He has had miserable luck this year. 3 DNFs in 3 races. Still looking for that first checkered flag. A win by Tony Kanaan and Mo Nunn Racing would bring smiles up and down the pit lane. There is your race leader, Paul Tracy, coming up on the orange car of Townsend Bell to put him a lap down, just 20 laps into this 250-lap race.
Since Team Green moved to the Lola car, Paul Tracy is beginning to come on strong. Paul's driving style demands that when he goes into a corner, he is so aggressive on his way into the corner, Bob. He needs good front-end grip. The Reynard simply did not give him that, and the Lola does. He jumps in Motegi, and he led the race convincingly until he had a right front wheel bearing go. And here again, in race conditions, Paul loves the front of this car, the ability to put it where he needs that car to be.
Well, let's see what happens when Tracy comes up behind the rookie Townsend Bell. Bell with no finishes this year, like Kanaan, I would imagine will let the race leader go fairly easily. That view out the front of the visor of the race driver.
Great view here. Paul Tracy, he led every kart race he was here for the first 7 years. He has failed to lead a lap in the last 2 years, won twice here. So he keeps his record almost perfect, except for those 2 years that intervened. And Bob, see how slowly he has to maneuver to try and make his way past Townsend Bell. And here comes Scott Dixon.
Scott Dixon in the red and white car with the blue rear wing right there. Last year, he became the youngest driver in Kart FedEx Championship Series history to win a race, just over 20 years of age. Now a veteran of 21, Scott Dixon has the opportunity of his career thus far. He's been successful at every level of motorsports he's ever attempted, from karts through Formula Ford, coming over to America, running in what used to be called the Dayton Indy Lights Series, which no longer operates. As a former champion in that series, dominated it when it was the top rung of driver development for the Kart Champ cars.
Here he comes. Dixon is beginning to close in a little bit more on Paul Tracy. Scott Dixon's parents sold almost everything they had in New Zealand to move here to America to be with Scott. He was so young he couldn't rent cars. He could hardly do anything. So his parents are in the pit lane as we speak, watching their young son with their heart in their mouth, I guarantee you.
Well, under the new pit rules, under which Kart FedEx Championship Series races are conducted, there are a maximum number of laps that a car can go before they have to pit. Here at the Milwaukee Mile, that's a very wide open pit window. We don't expect to see cars pitting until lap 46 if they're on a 3-stop strategy. And problems for Tracy there. He went high in 1 and 2.
Exactly. Braked a little too late. Did not get his 4 tires down onto the black stuff where they like to run on the inside of the apex. Drifted wide. Scott Dixon watched it and closed up 2 or 3 car lengths.
Here's the view from overhead. This classic racetrack that has seen so many dramatic moments over the 99 years that automobiles have been racing here.
And Bob, there's a whole slew of cars in front of Paul Tracy, even if he makes his way past Townsend Bell. And this might be what we see for the rest of the afternoon. How can you duck and dive in traffic? And meanwhile, Michael Andretti continues to close in. He is now in 6th place, and he's only 6 seconds behind the leading group.
Dixon riding the top of that patch, then diving down to the apex and back out. Great opening lap action here in Milwaukee. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back live to the Milwaukee Mile on the Miller Lite 250 here on CBS Sports. There you see the top 5. Paul Tracy had gotten around Townsend Bell. That's the orange and white car just ahead of Scott Dixon's red and white Target Ganassi Racing Lola. There is Alex Tagliani from the Players Forsyth team. He was slow on the racetrack. He came in 2 laps ago. Let's get down to Jan Bikas for the story.
I can tell you what happened, Bob, is that the engine just died, and they changed the electronics on the left-hand side pod. They're putting that back together now. There's quite a few fasteners to do, and he'll be back underway. But, of course, he's lost lots of valuable time.
The engines in these cars are 2.65-liter turbocharged V8s. See Dixon going underneath Bell, who was warned by race control for blocking Paul Tracy, and that could color his entire day.
And that's the problem. If he believes he's now being watched by race control, he almost needs to move over for all the leading cars, because he is not quick enough to stay up with at least these top 10 cars. It looks like Shinji Nakano, see Shinji right here, having a great run, teammate to Adrian Fernandez, and really has not shown the potential that I believe he has. Remember, he spent some time in Formula One and is so looking for a good career finish. 8th being his finish, our best finish so far, and he actually did that 3 times.
Taking a look at the running order at the top left of your screen, Paul Tracy, Scott Dixon, Shinji Nakano, Tony Kanaan, Adrian Fernandez, and Michael Andretti, the top 6. Then Patrick Carpentier, Cristiano D'Amata, Tora Takagi, and Dario Franchitti, the top 10. Kenny Breck runs 11th. Bruno Junqueira 12th, Christian Fittipaldi 13th, followed by Jimmy Vasser, Max Pappas, Michel Jourdain Jr., Mario Dominguez, Townsend Bell, and Alex Tagliani.
There are the 2 Mexicans running together. The Gigante car, Michel Jourdain, that is Dominguez, the rookie, who has actually went very well here during practice sessions Friday and Saturday. Dominguez, of course, also moved up from the Indy Light Series, but Tracy, Bob Tracy, is going to be in traffic all day long here from what we can see. Look at Dixon, he is right behind him again.
Tagliani got back on track 6 laps down. Townsend Bell now 1 lap down to the race leaders. Every other car is on the lead lap. We work lap number 41, getting very close to the opening of the pit window.
I'm surprised that we have not seen a gambler yet, because if you know you cannot stay up with a Tracy or a Dixon or in the Nakano or the leading group, if you're falling toward the back half, you stop early, you take yourself out of sequence, you hope for a yellow later on that you also stay out on to make up the track that you can't, and the track position that you can't get with sheer speed. And guess who used it last week at Indy? Castro Neves stayed out on a critical yellow, and as of now, they say he won the Indy 500.
Well, in now 3 laps, the pit window, that is the 3-stop pit window, will open. So if you're hoping to come in, make an early stop, and get some clear racetrack, that would be a time to do it without having to count on a yellow flag to get you the rest of the way on just 2 more stops.
And what we mean by the pit window is if you go at least to lap 46, you can then make this race on 3 stops. That's it. You've got to get to that magic number, 46.
Is that Nakano going slowly?
I think it is.
Shinji Nakano, teammate to Adrian Fernandez, who was doing so well, running up in 3rd place, has just crept around to the pit lane 2 laps before the pit window opened.
Yeah, so he cannot now make it in 3 stops. He missed that by just 2 laps. There has to be more than just tires here.
Looking at the right front corner of the car, we talked about the hub problem that some of the Lola chassis have had. Let's get to Jan Bikas.
And just got the signal, the international signal with the hand under the neck. Shut it off. There's definitely a problem with the right front. You mentioned the wheel bearing problems that have come from the Lola, but this has nothing to do with that. They're saying it's brakes. He has no brakes. And obviously this is not the type of oval where you can get away with that. You brake hard here at Milwaukee.
No question about it. Hauling these race cars down from nearly 200 miles an hour down to about 130 for the corner entrance. If you don't have brakes, you have a problem.
You do use the brakes quite hard here, as you see. Paul Tracy now still mired in traffic. One of the players' cars, probably Tagliani, still in trouble. The idea here, they use the brakes so hard, but drivers use right foot or left foot as Tagliani weaves into the brakes or to the pits.
Well, it's going to be a long day for the Canadian.
He's done. It's over. He came in too slowly, Bob, and the crew were too leisurely when he stopped. That usually is the sign we can't fix this thing.
The pit lane speed limit is a mandatory 50 miles an hour, but you're right. Both Nicano and now Tagliani has come in very, very slowly. And off comes the driver helmet cushion. Out he will climb. We're hearing from the pits that it's a battery problem, electrical troubles for Alex Tagliani. Jan Bikas.
Well, you can see the obvious, and Bob, you were describing it. The electronic gremlins did not go away for Alex Tagliani. His day is done prematurely. He makes his way back here. Sorry, Bob, we're going to see if we can grab a quick word before he gets his helmet off. Alex, changing the electronics box didn't fix it.
We were losing power, and the engine was going down, and the battery keep going out, and I think it's an alternator problem. There's a failure in the alternator, and we have just no electricity in the engine, so it's better to stop.
All right, sorry you're out early.
Yeah, you need electricity in these engines. That was a Ford engine. Ford still believed to be the most fuel efficient of engines between Toyota and Honda.
On board with Paul Tracy once again. Notice the steering wheel. No dashboard indications of any kind on these cars. Everything the driver needs is right in front of him on that very, very high-tech steering wheel. Despite some turbulent air out there, not a whole lot of steering input, and that's an indication that Tracy's car is working well. CBS Auto Racing Series coverage of the Miller Lite 250 will continue after this message and a word from your local station. Back live at the Kart FedEx Championship Series Miller Lite 250. There you see your top 5 and the second 5. As we have now completed 58 of 250 laps. Within 10 laps, everyone will have to come in and complete a pit stop. Derek, I suspect at this point it's going to happen on lap 68, and it's going to be a very busy pit lane.
It looks like it. You usually key off what the leader's doing. Watching Jimmy Vasser here, trying to get ahead of Bruno. Bruno says his car is very loose, so the only thing he can do is chop down. We're on board now with Jimmy Vasser. Oh, Jimmy better be careful. He's about to lose a position here. Max Pappas is all over Vasser.
Pappas goes underneath, the Italian taking over from Vasser in the 13th spot. Vasser drops back to 14th.
Bruno on the radio has said it's so loose he wants to come in as soon as possible. The team have told him no, wait. He has 7 more laps, which is only 7 miles, to try and hang on to that thing, but it's way, way too loose for Bruno to mount a charge on anybody.
Interesting story there. Pappas used to drive for Team Rahal. That's who Jimmy Vasser drives for right now. Pappas now with the underfunded Rockwell First Point Sigma Autosport team. Now there's Mario Dominguez going backwards on the back stretch.
No, because he took a risk. He tried to go around the outside of Michel Jourdain, got up in the gray. Oh, he lost it. He lost it. Yeah, it was up in the gray on the dirt, backed off. Oh, and you know what? He was lucky not to destroy that thing. He lost it. He lost it yesterday during practice. Damaged the rear wing, and everybody is now going to get ready to pit.
Yellow flag is out. The pits are closed. Now when they are open, all the cars on the lead lap may pit. Lapped cars like Mario Dominguez right there must wait. You see him working the steering of the car. I wonder if it's
trying to determine what might be wrong, to try and give the information to his crew that as soon as they can stop, they can identify it. Now, pits are closed. P, red, means it is closed. Then you get a P+, which means all the cars on the lead lap are allowed to pit then. P- means only the cars a lap down are allowed to pit. And lap down, right now, the lead car laps are only down as far as Franchitti, having done 63 laps from D'Amato back. They've all done 62 or less.
15 cars on the lead lap. Only Dominguez and Bell are a lap down.
I'd almost venture to say Dominguez might have a puncture. He tried to go around the outside of Jourdain, had a big wobble, a big moment. We saw that he disappeared backwards, and then he goes into turn 3 and 4 right here. Look, oh, he gets it sideways. Tony Kanaan just went around the outside. Oh, yikes.
That looked like Tora Takagi just got by underneath. Here's another angle.
There it is. Long, lazy slide. Luckily, he did not back it up into the concrete wall, because you know why he didn't, Bob? He'd already lost so much speed. He was running slowly. I almost would guess he has a puncture.
We've seen several. There has been a little bit of track breakup. There is race control. Gary Barnard, senior manager of competition, standing to the left of your screen.
Pits now open, Bob. They monitor the stops because a legal pit stop means you must change all 4 wheels and tires. Plus sign means all the leading cars down as far as Franchitti. Let me see. No, it's more. First 15 down as far as Jourdain now is shown as on the lead lap. Boy, stand back and watch this scramble here. Now, Dixon's criteria and Ganassi's is to beat Team Green out of these pits.
50-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit to Jan Bikus.
And of course, Scott Dixon will stop first because he is new to the Ganassi team, and he has pitted at pit in. Right about when he finishes, Paul Tracy will leave, or rather arrive at his location. So far, everything routine for Dixon. No changes expected. He's out of here.
Paul Tracy is in. The service is just about done. Jeff Braun finishes up the fuel. 35 gallons is in, and Tracy will beat them out. No changes to Paul Tracy's car.
Whoa, that is the scary moment there. Tracy knows that Dixon is coming down the pit lane. He knows he has to drop the clutch, and he knows he has to block him if need be, which he did.
Spectacular pit stop for Team Green. And this year, they have a program of donations to the organization 100 Black Men of America to provide internet connections and computers to inner city youth on all of the oval tracks. Well, in 6 races total this year, every pit stop they complete under a certain time means a donation. At the first oval track race of the year in Motegi, Japan, all of their stops met the limit. They wrote a big 5-figure check to the organization. Now, here are the 2 lapped cars coming in. Almost an advantage in this situation to have the entire pit lane to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Townsend about. Oh,
Dominguez.
You see what happened there? The right front man was about to come across in front of the car when Dominguez dropped the clutch. He almost ran over him, except Dominguez realized it and jumped on the brakes. Man.
Dominguez, the leader in the Rookie of the Year standings over Townsend Bell, the only 2 rookies in the battle. He and Bell are now back on track, and we will be back live to the Milwaukee Mile with more on CBS. Welcome back. These pictures being brought to you live from the Honda Helicam, flying high above the storied Milwaukee Mile and looking suspiciously like a fixed-wing airplane to me, but we're very grateful for the pictures. Still under yellow here on the Milwaukee Mile after a spin by rookie Mario Dominguez. Brought out the yellow flag. The green flag is now in the hands of Jim Swintel, the official starter. I imagine we'll be seeing it shortly. Now there in the Herdez pits, Mario Dominguez's crew working feverishly on the fuel valve. Well, apparently did not get fuel into that car. Jan Bikus?
No, it was a complete failure of the fuel probe. He got no fuel. They're trying to do it in time to bring him back in to get some fuel on board as we go back to green.
Thank you, Jan. Jim Swintel waves the green flag. Paul Tracy leads Patrick Carpentier and Tony Kanaan. Good pit stop for Patrick Carpentier.
It was a great pit stop. He went from 6th place to 2nd, while Scott Dixon went from 2nd to 7th. So that was not a good start for Scott Dixon or the Ganassi team.
Which raises the question, it is a new team, so perhaps not as well drilled as we would otherwise expect. Let's get more on that with Jan.
Well, you're talking about a new team, and they talk about team chemistry. Think of this, they had 4 people from Scott's old team, 1 from Kenny's car, 1 from Bruno's car, 2 from the IRL crew, and 4 from the shop. So I don't think it was a slow pit stop. I think it was the fact that he was pitted at pit in. When he starts to leave, then everybody cuts him off. That's why everyone always wants to be pitted at pit out.
Okay, that's a very, very interesting point. Remember, you get your choice of what pit stall you want depending on your performance in the last race. And Scott Dixon has no history or performance in the last race with this new team.
Setting the running order, it is Tracy, Carpentier, Canaan, then Adrian Fernandez, our pole sitter, who basically came out where he went in. Same for Michael Andretti in 5th. Tora Takagi is now 6th, Scott Dixon 7th, Dario Franchitti 8th, followed by Cristiano D'Amata and Christian Fittipaldi, the 2 teammates from Newman Haas Racing, a team co-owned by racing entrepreneur Carl Haas and actor and racing driver Paul Newman. Ralph Shaheen.
Bob, Patrick Carpentier is used to cars that don't exactly run great from the very beginning. As you know, he struggled with that this weekend. In fact, his very first car, very old Toyota Tercel, came with well over 200,000 miles on it. Didn't even come with keys. He used a screwdriver to start the car every time he got in it. Of course, the car he's driving today doesn't come with keys either.
We've all had one of those bangers for our first car.
Remember, he crashed 2 days ago, had a big crash, destroyed the back end of the Reynard so badly they could not fix it, stuck him in the spare car. And Bob, I know you commented in qualifying, for a guy to be brave enough to jump into a car that he has not even sat in and to qualify it as high as he did was quite impressive.
He was basically a road racer in his native Canada, came up through the ladder of minor series leading to the champ cars, including the Toyota Atlantic Championship. But he does have some oval experience. To Jan Bikas.
Mario Dominguez now was going to get some fuel, but it appears as though it's still not working. They engaged the fuel probe. Nothing happened. Now he shuts it down. Things getting from bad to worse for this crew.
Now they're working on the car. It looks like the cover for the fuel valve on the car won't release.
No fuel, no go. No, he is done. And you go laps down so quickly here as we watch the 2 Brazilian boys. Guess what? The 2 Brazilian boys, we got a quick picture there. Still looking Dominguez.
Tough break. And what an opening for Townsend Bell. He trailed Mario Dominguez by 2 points in the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year standings. And now Bell has a golden opportunity, if he can get up into the points, to pull ahead in that race. Things aren't going all that well for Townsend Bell right now. He is currently 16th. He'll need to pick up 4 places to get into the points.
And Bob, nor for the Newman Haas team. Here we see Christian D'Amata and Cristiano and Christian Fittipaldi running ahead of Townsend Bell. Townsend Bell is 16th. D'Amata and Fittipaldi were 9th and 10th.
Townsend Bell came to this track in the Old Indy Lights Series and nearly lapped the field twice. A very aggressive racing driver, a terrific young man. Kind of looks like he maybe had some prize fighting experience when you meet him. He's got a very interesting nose line.
Can I tell you what he wants today? To finish. He's got caught in accidents, some of them not maybe his fault, but he has not finished a race this year. Did quite a bit of damage, as you expect from rookies at times, but his priority today is just finish.
Well, he's with one of the most storied teams in the history of the series, Pat Patrick Racing. They have very, very high expectations. Normally they are a 2-car team. This year just 1 car for a raw rookie. And although Townsend Bell is giving it everything he's got, it just hasn't gone well thus far. Race leader Paul Tracy basically checking out. He's got 2 full seconds on second place Patrick Carpentier. Jan Bikas. Oh.
Interesting, Paul Tracy is doing lap times of 23.2. Second place Carpentier 23.4. So Tracy has the measure of the guys behind him. Fastest lap of the race so far is also Paul Tracy on lap 7. He did a 23.20. Second fastest lap of the race was actually Scott Dixon. Jan?
Now let's see if we can get a quick word with Mario Dominguez. Mario, that's a failure I've never seen before, totally out of your hands.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Something with the fuel tank that got stuck. I'm not really sure, but it's unfortunate, you know. We had a good car all weekend, and
We just got stuck in traffic, but the car was good. Tell us about the track conditions with these cooler temperatures.
Yeah, the track changed very much, but I guess it's the same for everybody.
Thank you.
Mario Dominguez. Better days will come for him, including a race in his home country. We began the season in Monterrey, Mexico. In November, we will visit Mexico City, a return of the champ cars to Mexico City, where the ticket sales indicate the eventual crowd at the Hermanos Rodriguez circuit may get close to 400,000 people.
This might be the hardest working team in motorsports around the world, Team Green. You see Paul Tracy still leading Patrick Carpentier. 2 Canadians here trying to fight out for glory. There's Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan almost won Motegi, was leading the Indy 500, was caught in unfortunate circumstances, so he is a potential winner here. Kanaan changed from a Reynard to a Lola for the first time this weekend, and Michael Andretti is coming on strong. Michael, top of your picture there in the Motorola car, is beginning to close down on Tony Kanaan.
Let's talk a little bit about that diamonding racing line you talk about, basically breaking the corner down into a series of straight lines rather than an arc.
Exactly. You come down the end of the straight. When you turn the wheel, you go straight and you brake. Then you turn the wheel back and you come straight out as fast as you can. Now, it's a subtlety that the trained eye has to watch, but it's very distinctive for Michael in the pit lane. There it is there. Like he turns, he goes straight. Then he comes back in again. It's an old-fashioned style that he believes by the time 250 laps is over, you're going to know and feel his presence here.
A racing style born on the dirt tracks, which is what this Milwaukee Mile was at one time. Horses raced here first, beginning back in 1875. Cars didn't come along until 1903. Michael has won here 5 times, 5 of his series-high 42 career victories, 3rd on the all-time list, behind A.J. Foyt and his father Mario. In fact, back in, I believe it was 1991, the Andretti family was all over the Milwaukee Mile. Michael won the race, cousin John finished 2nd, daddy Mario finished 3rd. What a day for one of the most storied families in American motorsports. Back to the leader, Paul Tracy. I mentioned their donations to 100 Black Men of America based on their performance in the pits. Maximum performance in that first round of stop. Dario stop 11.34 seconds. Paul Tracy stop 10.35 seconds for 4 tires and some fuel. They're on their way. $5,000 in donations to the charity.
And it's interesting, Bob. Dario Franchitti went to the Chicago chapter just to have a look for himself, was very, very impressed. On the Milwaukee chapter is just getting up and running, so they particularly will benefit from the performance of Team Green this afternoon.
This is a new paint scheme on this car. His teammate Dario Franchitti has a completely different one, bringing a new brand into the series.
And of course, it is the cool brand. One is mild, which is blue, and that goes to Dario to match his personality. And of course, Tony Kanaan, does he look as if he's slowing down a bit? Yes, he does.
Flag for smoke. Look out the back of the car.
Tony Kanaan, I cannot believe the mechanical problems this team has. Their engineer, Ian Watt, has worked on 3 completely different racing cars in the last 3 races alone. They have not had a day off since Japan. Ralph?
Tony Kanaan has made it into his pit stop. The engine has stopped, and they're going to take the engine cover off and check out this Honda power plant. Smoke billowing up out of the openings. The crew unscrewing the screws, and now the cover will be coming off momentarily, and Tony is crawling out of the car already. So whatever is wrong, very serious problem for Tony Kanaan. This crew had worked some 1,300 hours to get this car ready. They received it on May 6th. This is the first time that they raced it. The first time the car saw the racetrack was on Friday morning. That was their shakedown as they were practicing for qualifying. 1,300 hours worth of work up in smoke today. Tony has crawled out of the car. Let's see if we can make our way around here and get a quick interview with Tony and find out what the problem was. See if we can get up under here. Tony, can you tell us what the problem was with the motor?
It wasn't the motor. I don't know what it is.
Well, a very dejected Tony Kanaan. He says it's not the motor. Smoke billowing out of the back of the car.
Well, as I mentioned, one of the best liked guys in the pit lane. More problems for Tony Kanaan. Now this is Patrick Carpentier pitting out of sequence. We're taking a long look at the front of the car. In fact, all the way around the car, like there might be a radiator problem or something.
The magic number was 133 on the second pit stop.
Jan.
But you know what? This is not just a gamble. Jan?
Well, I can tell you, remember we heard the problem of his teammate was electronics. It appears as though it's a similar problem for Carpentier. They're going to be changing the battery. So strange that the two team cars would have electronic and battery related problems.
I mentioned earlier that Patrick Carpentier has experience on ovals. It came as a young boy when he was a speed skater. That was his first athletic endeavor. So he had a keen interest in a building that sits just outside this racetrack, the Pettit National Ice Center, where the U.S. Olympic speed skating team trains. Meanwhile, Michael Andretti now in second place behind Paul Tracy, two men who have raced each other year after year after year.
The diamond cutter himself beginning to maybe close in on Paul Tracy. They are teammates of sorts. Michael's car is run by Kim Green, but they're all under the same roof in Indianapolis. Team Green, unbelievably, they run 3 teams from under that roof. They then change from Reynard cars to all Lolas. They then get a brace of Delaros for the IRL race at the Indy 500. At one time, they had almost 24 up-to-date and current racing cars under one roof. That is unheard of in single-seater racing. That sounds like a NASCAR team.
Anybody want to buy a used car? They've got some good ones. So Michael Andretti, another storied march to the front from 13th starting position, looking for his 6th win on the Milwaukee Mile. We'll be back live in a moment here on CBS. It's a summer blockbuster all this month on The Late Show with Harrison Ford, Will Smith, Matt Damon, Jodie Foster, Chris Rock, and Tom Cruise. It's all new on The Late Show with David Letterman this month here on CBS. And as I mentioned earlier, David Letterman, a co-owner of two of the cars in this field. Jimmy Vasser, currently 11th. Michel Jourdain Jr., currently 13th. We know you're looking in, David. Hope you're enjoying the race. The Miller Lite 250 continues. Paul Tracy with Michael Andretti behind him. We're looking down from the Honda Alicam to see if we can measure the differences between the driving styles of the two veterans.
And Michael is beginning to close in. His fastest lap is only 1/10 of a second slower than Paul Tracy. But remember, oh, Jimmy's up high. Vasser in all sorts of trouble in the gray outside turns 3 and 4. Man, Jimmy is just not happy.
On board, still not up to speed.
Jimmy had a huge wobble during qualifying yesterday, just scared the daylights out of him. Was very quick this morning in the warm-up on full tanks. He was second fastest, but he has his hands full today.
See if he ducks for the pit entrance. No.
Townsend Bell goes by, so we know Townsend's off the pace. So Jimmy, you know, I think Jimmy's trying to feel what the problem might be. He knows he has a problem. Oh, another one in the wall. Is that Takagi?
I believe it is Tora Takagi, the young Japanese driver. Yes, and it looks like he has bent the right front. Driving for Walker Racing. One of the few Reynards, only 4 of them started the day. We've seen Alex Tagliani, now Tora Takagi have this problem.
Okay, now watch the potential pit action. Because now is the time for some of these teams to take a gamble.
110 laps complete. The next pit window, the next mandatory stop, wasn't to come until lap 133. Pits are closed, as they are on
surely the leaders, Bob, are going to pit. Right, 110. The magic lap is 133. I'm sure they're all going to pit. Jan?
We'll get a quick word with Patrick Carpentier. Battery-related problems, but your team car had the same thing. What's up?
Yeah, I don't know. We're having they just told me we're having electrical problems, and it keeps the alternator from charging the battery. Something is wrong there, so I cannot tell because I don't know exactly what it is, but it's electrical, and we had to stop.
Well, sorry, tough day for both cars. By the way, guys, this is what a battery looks like in a champ car. Not what you would think, very light, but unfortunately, they cannot power the car for long.
Report from Jimmy Vasser. He got on his radio, said to the team, I'm sorry, I just got out of the groove, got marbles on my tires. He said, sorry about that. Jimmy, you don't need to apologize. You're doing everything you can do out there.
Finger on the button, talking to the crew. This is our second yellow flag of the day, and as I was saying, on an oval track, every yellow flag is a complete full course caution. And the pits are automatically closed. Now the green sign with the black cross on it goes up. That means lead lap cars may pit. And at this point, there are 13 cars on the lead lap, the last of which is Jimmy Vasser.
Okay, so now the pit action is between two teammates. Oh, Michael comes in. Michael comes in and Tracy doesn't. Dixon comes in.
Cristiano D'Amata comes in. It's taking place on lap 113.
You know what, Bob? The magic number is also 114. If Paul can go to 114 laps, he can do it in just 2 more stops.
Michael Andretti exits around Scott Dixon, which you might expect he let him in. There from on board Dixon's car, you saw the water splash to clear away the remaining methanol when the fuel hose was disengaged. Pitting cars come back on track. So a quick look at Cristiano D'Amata. This is Paul Tracy with the visor cracked to get a little air in. Just behind the safety car. Very gray, dark skies overhead. Now Tracy will stay out. He will have to wait now because the lapped cars may now pit, which means the lead lap cars may not without being penalized. Now Paul Tracy will have to pit after the race goes green once again, or he can come in after the lead lap cars, but then he goes to the back of the field. And as you can see, all racing drivers are Italian. They speak with their hands. He's talking it over with the pit crew.
They talk it over and they try and make a decision, but what they can't factor in is how many yellow flags there might be. Oh, here's what happened. Takagi went round the outside of Jimmy Vasser, got on the same marbles that caught Jimmy out. Takagi was just, the angle wasn't right, and boom, look at that. Autographed the concrete wall on the outside. That was unfortunate for Takagi, because Jimmy, I bet, Bob, he didn't realize how slow Jimmy was running in the racing groove and didn't expect to have to adjust his line so abruptly. And unfortunately, that puts Takagi in the wall. 1
lap to green, and here come the rest of the lead lap cars. Jan Bikas.
And what they're trying to do, Bob, Adrian Fernandez getting service. They didn't come in the first time because they wanted to extend the pit window. Paul Tracy also in on the front end corral.
Paul Tracy is in. Crew chief Eric Haverson makes 2 turns on the front wing. Paul wanted to increase the front downforce on the car. That stop has been complete. He is down and away.
Paul loves front grip. We know that. Here's a fight between Dario and D'Amata trying to get out ahead of each other. Dario makes it, but Paul loves front downforce. He loves bite in the front to just duck and dive and make it fast because he likes to attack the corner so much. Oh, Michael's
gone around.
Mikey is off. Wow, what happened
yellow
there?
remains out. That's down in turns 3 and 4.
Did he just say, I simply spun?
I think so. No other cars appear to have been involved.
Yeah, he says we're okay.
The yellow remains out.
Wow, Mikey, 19 years of experience here. Wow, we were riding with you. We wanted to see you challenge Paul here. Now you got a real problem on your hands. Oh, this could make it even more interesting.
So we'll move the pit window a little bit further back, helping those who stayed on track to extend the pit window, try to go the rest of the distance on one more stop. Let's go to Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Kim Green is the team manager for Michael Andretti. Let's see, Kim, any idea what happened to him?
Well, we were hoping to get a bit of an advantage on the field there, and we probably tried a bit hard on the restart. So we're just going to see what happens in a sec. We'll probably come in and pit now and get back in the window.
Is the initial report that the car's okay? Is the initial report that the car's okay?
Yes, car's okay.
Car seems to be okay, guys.
So you know what happened? They were about to go green. He tried to get a jump on the field in the middle of 3 and 4, stood on it, not enough heat on the tires, rotated, and of course that's what kept the yellow out. So his own spin saved him and killed him at the same time.
Michael now running behind Adrian Fernandez in the 8th spot.
I'm surprised, Bob, that Fernandez has not been a front runner. We expected more from him. He was so comfortable here for the first 2 days of practice. We have another mad dash scramble here. That is Scott Dixon, peels off right there. Jan?
Scott Dixon is getting his routine service, and of course this is perfect timing for so many drivers that didn't come in to get back in sequence. Wow, 9.3 seconds, because obviously they did not need very much fuel.
There's Michael Andretti's second stop in this sequence. Ralph?
Michael is in. They did put 4 tires on the car and send him away. And remember, they only have 7 sets to work with here at a Kart FedEx Champ Car Series weekend.
There was some concern about tire longevity given the longer distance. This race was extended by 25 laps. The teams asked Kart to think about giving them an 8th set of tires. These are Bridgestone Potenza tires. They are wonderfully efficient and very good performers under the circumstances. Once Bridgestone assured Kart that they had just the tires they needed, the decision went to go with the 7. CBS Auto Racing Series coverage of the Miller Lite 250 will continue after this message and a word from your local station. Welcome back to this storied Milwaukee Mile and the Miller Lite 250. I'm Bob Varsha along with Derek Daly, Ralph Shaheen, and Jan Bikas are down in the pits. Glad to have you with us here on CBS Sports. It's been an interesting race, and the yellow flags have definitely jumbled everyone's pit strategy, Derek.
It has, and of course it's become a battle between 2 teammates, Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti. No sooner did Michael get right up behind him, then he fell off.
There you see our Bridgestone race summary. Approaching halfway in this race, 3 leaders, 2 lead changes. Fastest lap averaging 160 miles an hour plus by Paul Tracy.
Now the interesting fact is, Bob, we now have the first 5 cars from Brack, Tracy, Junqueira, Fernandez, and Franchitti have only made 2 pit stops. D'Amata, Jourdain have made 3, and then it's 2-3, 2-3 all the way to the back of the field.
3 cautions in all on the day, 2 of them very close together. After Tora Takagi hit the wall and then Michael Andretti spun on the restart. The running order is Kenny Brack, Paul Tracy, Bruno Junqueira, Adrian Fernandez, our pole sitter, Dario Franchitti, who has come up from back in the field, Cristiano D'Amato runs 6th, Michel Jourdain, Christian Fittipaldi, Scott Dixon, and Max Pappas the top 10. We are now just 1 lap past the halfway point in the Miller Lite 250.
So we mentioned Kenny Brack at the top of the show. His team has just gone on the radio to him and said, Kenny, great laps, your fastest of the day. Keep pumping. So Kenny Brack beginning to show the type of form that brought him a win at the Indy 500, brought him a pole here last year, and a win last year, and brought him 4 wins, in fact, total last year.
6 cars out of the race. Tora Takagi, Patrick Carpentier, Tony Kanaan, Mario Dominguez, Shinji Nakano, and Alex Tagliani.
Looking at our timing and scoring, Kenny Brack, I believe he is the only driver in the 22-second range. He just crept into a 22.99 is Kenny Brack. So he is faster than Tracy. He is faster than Michael. He is faster than everybody. Kenny Brack now in control.
Brack, the defending champion in the Miller Lite 250, as we go on board with Paul Tracy trying to chase down the Swede. Last year, Brack drove for Team Rahal. Switched over this year to Target Chip Ganassi Racing. If he can hold on to win this race, it'll be the first time in a long time we've seen a driver win the same event 2 years in a row with 2 different teams.
So he watched Scott Dixon with Ganassi against Tracy earlier, and they lagged back. This time during the pit stop, Kenny Brack's crew did yeoman service and put him out ahead of Paul Tracy. And that clear air, Bob, has given Brack a tremendous opportunity to put fast laps in here and to show Tracy what he might potentially have for him.
Well, remember, one of our top stories coming in was Kenny Brack being perhaps outshone by his younger teammates Bruno Junqueira and now Scott Dixon in the 3-car Target Chip Ganassi Racing stable. Brack is right out front now, performing under pressure. We'll go on board with Bruno Junqueira running in 3rd spot behind his teammate Kenny Brack and Paul Tracy.
And as he makes these gear changes, watch, as soon as he comes off the corner, which is about now, bump, pulls it back, and he doesn't actually down change until he's actually turned the car down towards the apex.
It's a sequential gearbox, so all he has to do is push forward to shift down a gear, pull back to go up a gear.
1,000 gear changes minimum. That doesn't count when you go up and down the box on the way in or out of the pit lane. You might ask why some teams would use 7 speeds. They say they put them in because they're available and they might have an advantage during restart situations.
You can tell just how close in ratio those 2 top gears are by listening to how little the revs fall when he makes the shift. Let's listen.
Speaking of revs, Bob, the Toyota engine that you see here is the highest revving of them all, about 16,700. Honda.
Townsend Bell.
Oh,
Townsend Bell is slow. I mentioned he had the opportunity with Mario Dominguez out of the race to gain ground in the Rookie of the Year standings, but he's looking down in the cockpit, trying to stay out of everyone's way. It appears that all is not well with the Visteon car from Patrick Racing.
He is reporting that he has broken the gearbox, or should I say the gearbox is broken. If I say he broke the gearbox, he'll be mad at me.
That's right.
But the gearbox apparently is broken.
It's not working.
1 car is all that Patrick Racing run. You know what? That right rear wheel looks like he hit something. That right rear wheel looked like a big wobble. And the right, you know what? He's hit something. Bobby's hit the wall. Look at the
See,
look at the left.
right walled the right front
Yeah,
corner.
right front and the right rear. That's what broke the gearbox. Aha! You can't
Sliding
get
up.
away with something like this. Oh!
Well, he hit it and then some.
Yeah, that'll definitely break the gearbox for you. Right front suspension. Well smacked. Right rear suspension broken. There's no way. I mean, look at the tie rod. Suspension tie rod bent up into a V on the right front. Yet again, Townsend Bell does not finish a race.
So the 2 men who came into the Miller Lite 250 looking for their first checkered flags of the year, Tony Kanaan and Townsend Bell, neither will get one. He becomes the 7th car out of the race. Once again, there is Kenny Brack, the Swede, former Indianapolis 500 winner, former champion in the rival open wheel series to the Kart FedEx Championship Series, the Indy Racing League.
Bob, as we watch Kenny Brack right here and his teammate Bruno Junqueira run in 1st and 3rd place, remember it is a strategically run race by these teams. Both of those drivers stopped on lap 112. That means they must stop 2 more times. Remember when Tracy took the chance and stayed out? He only has to pit 1 more time. That will be a major key as this team rolls itself out here.
Dropping back to the 2nd place car of Paul Tracy, on board with him, looking out through the front of his visor.
And Bob, Paul knows that. He knows that. The team have told him, Paul, you're looking good. If you can catch Brack, if you can pass him, great. If you don't, you just hold station. You are in control right now, Paul Tracy.
There's the 3rd place car, Bruno Junqueira, giving you an idea of the interval between the front runners. Junqueira looking for his 2nd straight oval track victory, following up on Motegi, Japan 5 weeks ago. There's Adrian Fernandez, the 4th place car, in yellow and green.
And it's a surprise to me. Adrian, this team was well rested, did not do the Indy 500, came here and tested. Early in the month of May, they were very fast. They've been fast all weekend long, but just not a happy racing car right now.
There is Dario Franchitti moving steadily forward. Scott now running in the 5th spot.
And we mentioned earlier the color scheme. You see it is blue. Blue denotes mild, cool brand of cigarettes. Mild. Tracy, of course, still in green because that is full flavor. guess.
I know where you're going with this.
Guess why? Oh, yeah. It fits his personality perfectly. He is full flavor.
Cristiano Damata, who won the season opener in Monterrey, Mexico. His third victory in a row. He couldn't get the fourth. And once we've gotten on to these shorter ovals, around a mile, mile and a half in Motegi, Japan, and here in Milwaukee, his team has been absolutely star-crossed. They cannot seem to find the speed in the car. Currently, he runs sixth, and I have a feeling the little Brazilian would be very happy if he can finish there. There is another of the Mexican drivers. 3 Mexican drivers in the series. Adrian Fernandez, Mario Dominguez, and this man, second-generation racer Michel Jourdain Jr., whose father drove a champ car when they last visited Mexico City in the Hermanos Rodriguez racetrack. What a thrill it would be for him to come back in the Gigante colors. Mexican, excuse me, department store chain. And they return to Mexico City later this fall.
Guess what? Christian Fittipaldi and Cristiano Damata, because they are Brazilian, today are wearing green, blue, and yellow driving boots. They're going to keep them on, as bad as they look, as long as Brazil is in the World Cup.
Oh, my.
And Carl Haas hated green when cars at one stage.
Absolutely.
You can't hate it too much now because of the lily colors on Christian's car.
Well, this is such an international series. As you might imagine, there's been a lot of talk about the World Cup tournament here in Milwaukee this weekend.
So Jourdain has made 3 pit stops. Last time was 114, lap 114. That means he can go now with, I believe, 1 more stop. Is that right? Let me just check here. Yes, 1 more stop. He can make it.
This is Scott Dixon, currently running in 9th position in his debut with Target Chip Ganassi Racing.
Amazing stories about this young man. He has so much racing experience. Had to tell some lies to get a license early in his career to get some dispensation just to be allowed to race, as we watch Max Pappas.
A new sponsorship on Max Pappas's Sigma Auto Sport Lola this weekend. Powerade, brand of Coca-Cola products, joining the team in the trial run. You see the logo on the engine cover. What a personality for them to hook up with. Mad Max Pappas, who so delighted American racing fans just a few years ago, running in the 24-hour endurance sports car race in a Ferrari at Daytona Beach, Florida. Closing laps of the race, Max got into the car and started cutting laps at qualifying speeds after 24 hours of racing. And the place just went crazy. And there is Michael Andretti running behind Pappas after that spin that upset what looked to be a pretty bulletproof race plan for the man who has won here 5 times. There's a view from overhead. Good crowd on hand today here at the Milwaukee Mile. Jan Bikas with Townsend Bell.
With a very discouraged Townsend Bell. Townsend, what happened today?
Well, this Dion car was what we really struggled all weekend. We had a really bad push and loose coming off, and tried everything we could possibly think of all weekend to get it to work better. I was just out there hanging on with a really bad push and trying to stay with Michael at the back of the pack just to finish. I got a little wide and going into 1, and the front end started to push. And I took my feet off the pedals, just waited for the front end to come back, and we got out in the marbles. It's really dirty out there, and it just never stopped pushing. It started about 500 feet before we actually touched, and there was just nothing I could do. It just walked right up into the wall, so it's really disappointing.
And this has been every race, unfortunately, this season. Is it hard to keep your confidence now to try and get yourself where you need to be?
Well, we're just trying to make it to the end of one of these races. We've had various problems, but you know, in the end, it's up to me to do a better job. So I'm looking forward to the races coming up. I sure hope things start turning our way here pretty soon.
Wish you well.
Thanks.
Well, Townsend Bell is in good company, having hit the wall here in Milwaukee. Some of the greatest names in racing have done the same. We'll take a break and be right back with more from the Milwaukee Mile. Welcome back to Milwaukee. Kenny Breck leads Paul Tracy by less than a second in the Miller Lite 250. Right now, let's take a look at our Toyota Spotlight. Here's Jan Bikas.
One of the tricky things about an oval is to keep the handling of your car the same, even though the track conditions are changing. Now, during a pit stop, the easy way to change that would be to make a front wing change. by turning these front wing adjusters 2 complete turns, you move the wing 1 degree. That doesn't sound like very much, but that puts 20 pounds of downforce on the front of the car. That's a big change. Now, the teams also do some trickery. They paint these to be sure that the mechanics in the flurry of a pit stop can tell the difference quickly between a half turn and a full turn. And when it comes race time, because this is so sensitive, they put a piece of tape across to be sure it doesn't get bumped on the way to the grid.
Good point, Jan. Another way to adjust the downforce in the front is by the ride heights. Believe it or not, they adjust the ride heights as little as 25 thousandths of an inch at the front just to move the center of pressure. These cars are so sensitive. And here's a man that's not sensitive, but right now he is absolutely flying. He's been running down Kenny Brack by about 0.5 of a second per lap, and you can see right there Brack and Tracy now within 6 or 7 car lengths of each other.
Their last laps were within 0.02 of a second of one another. Getting back to the downforce issue, these cars are very sensitive. They're also extraordinarily efficient. At racing speeds, these cars produce so much downforce that it's like the wing of an airplane that the cars could actually run across the ceiling of a large enough room.
Yep, because they generate more than double their own weight. Tracy now knows that Brack has 2 more stops to make because the magic number for Brack was 114. He stopped at 112. I'm not sure why they did that. Junqueira, who's behind Tracy, also has to stop 2 more times. Paul only has to stop 1 more time. Interesting, Bob. You see completely different lines exiting these corners. Tracy is brave. He's got enough grip, and he goes up really high, much higher than Kenny Brack.
Closing up. Checking the gap next time by. Down to just over 0.5 seconds. Bruno Junqueira in 3rd is a 1.5 seconds back. Adrian Fernandez in 4th, 6.5, followed by Dario Franchitti, less than 1 second behind Fernandez.
So no matter what happens here, even if they get a yellow flag, it's not going to happen Kenny Brack, because the numbers say you can only go 68 laps. So even if they do it under yellow, Bob, he still has to stop. The number says 2 more stops for Kenny, 1 for Tracy.
There's a view brought to you live from the Honda Skycam, flying high above the fabled Milwaukee Mile. 99 years of auto racing and counting. So the next mandatory pit stop for Kenny Brack will come on lap 180. Currently working lap 169. Tracy will wait to 182.
Here's Michael still trying to run down Max Pappas, and now the leaders are bearing down upon him. Boy, how things change. Michael was about to challenge Tracy for the lead, and now, Bob, he's going to try and hold them off from being lapped down.
We have heard that radio transmission. Kenny Brack's crew telling him you were 24.1 seconds on that last lap. Tracy 24.2, so you're holding your ground. Now with more on Brack's situation, here's Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Bob, I'm with Mike Call, the man calling the race for Kenny Brack. Mike, what was your pit strategy? Why do you have 2 stops to go?
Well, we had to take a chance to get to the front because at Milwaukee, track position means everything. If you know any way to get us a yellow here in about 10 laps, Ralph, we'd appreciate it.
Are you afraid it's going to bite you now?
No, we're racing for the end of the race, so it's a long way to go.
Jan Beekes.
Well, remember, it's the team car for Kenny Brack that could also get pit. Bruno Junqueira also pitted on lap 112. So 2 stops in the future for Kenny Brack and Bruno Junqueira. So theoretically, you got to say that Paul Tracy and then Adrian Fernandez are kind of effectively running 1-2, at least at this juncture, because the other 2 cars got to make 2 stops ahead of them.
That black car running behind Bruno Junqueira is Cristiano D'Amata. He is a lap down, actually 2 laps down to the race leaders, running in 12th spot. So D'Amata's woes on the shorter ovals continue.
And in fact, D'Amata just made a quick pit stop about 5 laps earlier, so he and Townsend Bell were the only 2 drivers to make 4 pit stops. So D'Amata's still in all sorts of trouble. D'Amata are...
Let's stay with them, Bruno. Come on.
Let's stay with them, Bruno. Come on. Oh, Bruno must be trying to watch D'Amata behind him. Probably doesn't realize that is not a battle for position, and they want him to stay as close to Tracy. Did you see he's dropped back about 3 or 4 car lengths? They need him up closer to Paul Tracy.
The next car for Junqueira to worry about is Adrian Fernandez, who was last listed about 3 seconds behind. Flashing across the start-finish stripe. 175 laps complete.
There is that lead battle again with Kenny Brack still hanging on. Now, I don't know whether Paul has shown the type of speed to be able to pass Kenny Brack here. He's going to rely on traffic, on Kenny encountering traffic at just the wrong time for him, for Paul to make a chance to maybe squeeze by. And then Tracy doesn't want to make too much of a gamble because he knows he's got the advantage on pit stops anyway. Just got a note from Tracy's radio, Bob. Tracy just radioed in and said, I'm just going to sit on Brack. That means he's happy to just sit back there. P2 for who?
And every time by, his crew will tell him, if you didn't already read it off of his steering wheel mounted display, each lap time compared to the man he is either trying to draw away from or draw closer to.
Okay, it was for Kenny Brack because the 68 magic number is coming up for Kenny on lap 180. You hear it again?
Hit in one.
Yep. So Kenny's going to peel off. Paul's going to know that. He's going to sail on. Then Junqueira's going to make a pit stop.
Good lap, Kenny.
Tracy and Fernandez are going to end up running 1-2 here.
Make it a good lap, Kenny, they said. They want him to try to get as much time out of Tracy as they can.
Pit on this lap, Kenny, pit.
The old days, Bob, of measuring tenths of a second, no longer. Hundredths are not good enough anymore. Now they measure in thousandths of a second because these cars are so evenly matched.
Now it'll be up to Brack to pit the car as efficiently as possible. Get off the line, get down to the 50-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit as late as possible. And now those agonizing seconds it takes to get down the pit lane, into the pit, let the crew go to work.
And Tracy's going to be in 2 more laps, so this needs to be very efficient if Kenny Brack is to stay ahead of Tracy on the track.
Ralph Shaheen.
Kenny Brack is in. The crew will do no changes to the car as Bruno Junqueira sweeps in front. The car is very good. They're very happy with it. Fueling is done, all 35 gallons in, and Kenny Brack is away.
Did he hit that tire that was coming off of Junqueira's car, or was it still rolling around from when the crew had dropped it? I'm not sure. It must be a clean stop. With only 19 cars in this field, they extended. Oh, and we have a yellow flag out. A yellow flag.
They just missed it. The Ganassi team just missed the yellow they were hoping for. They were hoping to make a pit stop with everybody else running slowly on the racetrack.
The pits are closed once again. What does that mean to Tracy? He'll have to stop at the next opportunity, but that, of course, was his plan anyway.
Tracy was due in on lap 182. We must be on lap 182. Where are we? We are. We're on lap 182. Tracy, he better have enough fuel to go further than 68 laps. The fuel window was measured on about 2 miles to the gallon. They can easily do more than 2 miles to the gallon.
The reason for the yellow, Scott Dixon up high. Doesn't look like he got into the wall. Now, the way the races run, there are professional observers all the way around the track. And if they call for a yellow flag, and it is a judgment call, if they say yellow, the yellow comes out immediately, and they err on the side of conservatism. Better to be cautious, even if a guy like Dixon doesn't actually get up into the wall, doesn't drop oil, doesn't create debris on the racetrack. If it looks like a yellow is needed, get it now, get everybody slowed down, safe and under control.
Bob, how many people now have we seen this afternoon get out of the groove between turn 3 and 4? And as soon as you get a car without, it is so slippery, you are on the way to the concrete unless you're very fortunate and manage to save it, as we've seen Scott Dixon do there.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we saw Townsend Bell get into the wall. He's in good company. This can be a very diabolical racetrack, as you say, when you get up into the gray stuff. I remember a few years ago, Bobby Rahal in the twilight driving years of his wonderful career Did exactly that. Got up high, got into that outside wall. I believe it might have been his last visit to Milwaukee as a 3-time Kart FedEx Championship Series title holder. To Jan Bikas.
First to stop on pit road will be Adrian Fernandez. Routine stop for him. He's back in sequence, and Paul Tracy should be arriving on the other end. Ralph?
Paul Tracy is in, Jan. They will do a half turn on the front wing, as we talked about earlier. Paul loves that downforce. Wanted a little bit more as they fight to the finish. All the fuel is in. He is away with his last stop.
Bob, notice he's got brand new sticker tires, so they are as fresh as they can be to give Tracy the maximum grip for this last run, hopefully for him, to the checkered flag.
And the beauty of having that last pit before the exit is you can smoke them up as much as you like and still not break the 50-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit on the way out.
And block everybody coming down the pit lane if you can.
Good stop for Adrian Fernandez, who came in 6th, comes out right behind Paul Tracy. There you see Fernandez, followed by Dario Franchitti and Max Pappas, Christian Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti. Scott Dixon still out. Running order currently shown: Paul Tracy, Adrian Fernandez, Max Pappas, Dario Franchitti, Christian Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti, Dixon, Jourdain, Brack, and Vassar in the top 10. Well, there's Vassar in the pits, so his situation will obviously change. Ralph Shaheen.
Bruno Junqueira just pitted again, Bob. This yellow, what it did do for the target crew is get them back on the same pit strategy as everybody else. You have to come in to make a completed pit stop and take 4 fresh tires. Bruno just did that. We should be seeing Kenny Breck coming back in. No, Mike Hall says no, he's not going to come in yet, but Bruno Junqueira just did. So at least Bruno Junqueira on that pit strategy now.
That is curious. That leaves Breck out there as the only driver, at least among the front runners, who still has to make another stop, despite the fact there are only 65 laps to go in the race.
And he missed the yellow. Remember, the yellow played into Tracy's hands, not Breck's hands.
Let's get back down to Ralph.
All right, Michael, you're playing some interesting cards here today. Why have you decided not to bring Kenny in now?
That yellow that you were going to get for us was 1 lap too late. So we had to stay out to get, Kart let you lap pass around. So we're back on the lead lap now. But in doing that, you cannot come back into the pits till you take the green on the racetrack. So we're going to take a chance. We need a yellow now, Ralph, in 68 laps. You can do something for us there. We'd appreciate it. We're still in the race here.
I'll see if I can do better this time.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Michael. Interesting strategy having to be played out here, gentlemen.
No question about that. And next time, would you be a little more conscientious about getting that yellow flag for your pals down there in the pit lane? While we have a moment under the caution here at the Milwaukee Mile, let's take a look at our FedEx vignette. While Milwaukee is just a few hours easy driving from the Indianapolis headquarters of Kart and many of its teams, the race cars and equipment had quite a long journey from the last FedEx Championship Series race held in Motegi, Japan. How do you transport 40 champ cars and approximately 180,000 pounds of equipment worth more than $70 million on a round-trip journey halfway around the world? Well, the FedEx solution for Kart is a complete turnkey operation, which provides the air and ground transportation needed to deliver the cars and equipment of the series to its ultimate overseas destination. This includes the development of specially constructed racks that hold 2 champ cars and some of the team's equipment. The racks fit perfectly into the FedEx MD-11s that transport the series overseas. For Kart's overseas events in Japan, England, Germany, and Australia, the teams deliver their cars and equipment to the FedEx hub in Indianapolis, where everything is loaded. When the teams arrive at the foreign venue, everything is waiting for them. Now that's special delivery. Welcome back. We had gone green under the just after that yellow flag, but we had not completed a lap before the yellow comes back out. Dario Franchitti, who was shown in 5th place, has obviously clouded the wall.
Now here's the yellow that Kenny needs. He can now get back on sequence.
I had such a great line ready, just like Kenny Breck getting caught under the yellow when it went green. That's what happened to us. And now Dario has brought out another yellow to save us. I don't think I'd want to broach that subject with him right now.
It was cold tires. He had just made a pit stop. The temperature appears to have gone down here, so he would not have had tire temperatures. But Dario in that brand new blue, cool color scheme. And is this the first time you raced the Lola? Yes, it is. This is his first time to race this Lola. He was running second at one stage.
Hard to tell that paint scheme apart from Max Pappas's. Simple Green Kart Safety Team.
Or Mad Max. Wasn't it you that named him Mad Max?
That's what he
I
says.
believe it was.
I'll take credit for it. Here's another look at what happened to Dario.
Oh, the same place. Exactly the same place we mentioned earlier. Between 3 and 4, once you get out into the groove, you are on your way to the concrete. Here it is here. Tries to go around outside Christian, is it?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Now he's in trouble already. In trouble already. In trouble already.
We can tell from all of that rubber scraped up against that wall that he has had plenty of company up there high on turn 2. Safety team will winch the car out of the way. They're not putting the yellow diaper under it, so it appears that no fluid is coming out as Dario Franchitti makes the long walk across the racetrack back to the pits.
So 1 down for Team Green. Andretti almost went down earlier. He is in the top 8 as we speak. But Paul Tracy is leading this team and has all afternoon long here. It is his second race in the Lola. He really likes the Lola, as we mentioned earlier, because of the bite that the front end has. It just suits Tracy's aggressive style.
Down to Ralph Shaheen.
Kenny Brack is in. This is the last pit stop that he needed. Of course, those last tires were not used, but in the Kart FedEx Champ Car Series, to make it a legal pit stop, you have to change 4 tires. So they did. That will take care of Kenny Brack's pits. He is good to go.
And he will come out 10th, the last car on the lead lap. And that must be a complete tire change. You can't just take off the 4 that are on, bounce them off the ground, and put them back on. It has to be 4 tires that were not on the car when it came into the pits.
And Kenny is still the fastest man on the racetrack over the course of the race. He is the only man to lap in the 22-second range. So Kenny Brack has the speed. Now, he got those laps when he was in clean air. We're going to wait now and see, does Brack have the ability to make his way through traffic and get back up to maybe challenge Paul Tracy? Wouldn't it be interesting if it was Tracy's teammate who caused the yellow that gave the advantage back to Brack?
Coming up next, CBS Sports coverage of the PGA Tour takes you back to the TPC at Avenel for final round coverage of the Kemper Insurance Open. Or go to cbs.sportsline.com. America Online, keyword CBS Sportsline. There's a look at the leaderboard. Bob Burns and Bob Estes tied at 10 under. Lots of competition in the final round.
You just saw a quick picture of Cristiano D'Amata. He has now made 17 pit stops. Actually, it's 7.
I'm sure it feels that way
I
to
bet
him.
to him it feels like 17.
Absolutely.
Unhappy. This team, for some strange reason, have just not got the sweet spot set up for these short ovals. In Japan, they struggled mightily, and they're just not on the pace today, Bob.
Look there at his teammate, Christian Fittipaldi, nephew of the great Emerson Fittipaldi, the 2-time Indy 500 winner and former Kart FedEx Series champion. He and Cristiano D'Amata drive Lolas. One of their team co-owners, Carl Haas, is the Lola importer for North America. So you would think they would have all the hot setups, but somehow it just does not seem to work for that team on the short ovals.
Bob, I believe they may bring the jet dryer out to just blow the dirt from the outside of turn 3 to try and protect these drivers for the rest of this race now with 57 laps to go. And that will be a safety move.
And so that will mean a few more laps of yellow. While we have the time, let's take a look at another Toyota Spotlight. Yesterday here at the Wisconsin State Fair Park, we witnessed the first annual Best of the Worst WURST Executive Chef Competition. Kart team chefs used bratwurst as the basic ingredient. They could modify it any way they wanted to flaunt their culinary expertise. As you can see, there were some pretty tasty looking entries. A celebrity panel judged the entries based on creativity, flavor, best use, and presentation. Hector Benavidez, executive chef to Mario Dominguez, and the Herdez team took home the trophy with what else? A Mexican theme on the legendary Wisconsin bratwurst.
So that is where we will now have our lunch in future.
That absolutely has to go on the social calendar every weekend here.
Isn't that one of the perks?
Absolutely.
Interesting, Bob. Max Pappas, Mad Max himself, as they cart away Frank Keaty's car. Pappas went from 6th place to 3rd in that last set of pit stops. So Phil Howard and his team are doing an exceptionally good job for that very, very small team to be running this well.
Here's another program note. See why CBS Monday is America's best night of comedy, starting with The King of Queens, followed by Yes Dear, and Monday's #1 comedy, Everybody Loves Raymond. Then don't miss Becker starring Ted Danson, plus 48 Hours and The Late Show with David Letterman, all Monday here on CBS. We are still under the yellow flag. We don't expect the green for another couple of laps, so we'll take a quick break and return with more live from Milwaukee. Welcome back. Still under caution on the Milwaukee Mile as we complete a blow dry of the racetrack, you might say, getting debris off. A couple of teams still making late pit stops for fuel. While we have a moment, let's check out our Toyota race summary. Adrian Fernandez started from pole position when the green flag waved, but he was slow getting away from the mark. The green and orange car at the center of your screen swamped by those behind him. Paul Tracy took the lead. After a long run of green flag racing, Mario Dominguez, the rookie from Mexico, spun. He would eventually be out of the race with a problem with his fuel. Tony Kanaan, looking for his first race finish of the year, was running strongly until he suffered engine problems. Paul Tracy took over and dominated the middle stages of the race, and he is our current race leader. Several cars, including rookie Townsend Bell, found the outside wall at turn 2. And that knocked Bell out of the race. He too, like Kanaan, still looking for his first finish in 4 races in 2002. Kenny Breck on a very, very risky pit stop strategy has put himself at the back of the lead lap with the help of a yellow flag brought out by that man, Dario Franchitti, into the turn 2 walls. And so Franchitti, our points leader coming into this 4th round of the Kart FedEx Championship Series, is now out of the race.
And Bob, right before you went to that recap, we saw D'Amato make pit stop number 19.
More like 8, but I get your point. Now you can get,
and it's for fuel only.
Get in-depth information on all the kart drivers, including profiles and updated 2002 stats. Just click on Autos at cbs.sportsline.com or on America Online. Just enter the keyword CBS Sportsline. 51 laps remaining in the Miller Lite 250. Here's Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Barry Green is the man that owns the car of Paul Tracy. And Barry, are you in a position now where you can just run this thing home, or what are you looking over your shoulder at?
Well, we hope, Ralph. I mean, he's driven a terrific race to this point. Just a minor adjustment in one of the pit stops to the car, so the balance is really good. He's really driven a good race. Little concern, you know, the track, a couple of the boys went wide. Dario went wide there, so he's got to be careful. And he'll come up against some back markers. When we're in traffic, that's where we struggle a bit. But I think everyone struggles, but no mistakes in traffic, and I'll be a happy man.
All right, best of luck to you, Barry.
And with that, the green flag comes back out with 50 laps to go in the race. The leader is Paul Tracy over Adrian Fernandez, Max Pappas, Christian Fittipaldi, Scott Dixon, and Michel Jourdain. Michael Andretti is 7th. Kenny Brack is 8th. Jimmy Vasser 9th, and Bruno Junqueira is 10th.
And the key is, can Michael Andretti work his way towards the front and drag Kenny Brack with him? They probably have a similar amount of speed, but it is now 50 laps to go. It is a sprint, and the 2 boys who qualified 1st and 2nd are running 1st and 2nd on the... Oh, big wobble again. Who was that? Was that Jourdain or Dixon?
That's Scott Dixon.
Wow. He almost threw the whole thing against the concrete wall. That was a mighty piece of driving to stop that car hitting the concrete wall.
And a scary moment for Jourdain, because with Dario Franchitti, the points leader, out of the race, Michel Jourdain has a chance to take over the Kart FedEx Championship Series points lead for the first time in his career. He's having the best of his 7 seasons in the game. running with a front-running team. In the first 3 races of the year, he scored more points than he has in any other season. There's another look at that wicked wiggle.
Yeah, just caught it at the top of the screen on that earlier shot, but Scott Dixon got it sideways. Bob, he still wiggles on the way in. It appears that these tires need about 2 or 3 laps to bring them up to temperature. It is cooler today than it has been all weekend long here, and that's probably one of the reasons Barry was saying no mistakes for Paul Tracy.
Tracy is very good on cold tires.
And there's nothing Paul Tracy loves more than a fight. There's nothing he is better at than a straight fight when he's got a car this good under him.
There's Fernandez about a 1.5 seconds back. Then Pappas 2.1 seconds behind. Then Christian Fittipaldi. Now more on Dario Franchitti with Jan Bikas.
Yes, he just was surveying the damage of his car. Dario, what happened?
Well, I was just trying to make something happen on the restart. You know, they passed Christian round me. He said he got out of the blend line ahead. I'm not sure about that, but I was trying to get past. The car was good on cold tires. That was the only really time we could pass people. So, you know, I moved out a bit, hit the marbles, and that was it after that. You know, I guess like 50, 100 laps before. I said to them, can you, under the next yellow, can you get them to clean the track off? But they have to wait until we go in the wall before they do that. I mean, they should look at the track more. I don't know what the hell they're thinking up there, but they need to look at these situations more because it's a one-line racetrack. If they blow the marbles off, we'll get some more passing.
Well, a very frustrated Dario Franchitti, and in fact, after he did hit the wall, they did listen to what the drivers, there were many drivers on the radio saying, please, can you blow off this track? That's why they had the long delay before they went back to green.
But too late to save Dario Franchitti, who will officially be listed in 12th, the final points-paying position. So he will pick up 1 championship point on the day.
Just a note on the sheer speed of these cars. Paul Tracy 23.1 on his last lap. Fernandez 23.2 on his last lap. Mad Max Pappas the same as Fernandez, 23.2. Christian Fittipaldi just about a 10th slower. So Tracy has the measure of these boys, and we're watching for Michael. Now Michael and Kenny Brack are embroiled in some traffic. They are currently running almost half a second a lap slower than Paul Tracy.
8 cars remain on the lead lap. Tracy, Fernandez, Pappas, Fittipaldi, Jourdain, Dixon, Andretti, and Brack. Paul Tracy has led, well, more than 135 laps as he keeps ticking them off today. That's more laps than he's led in the past 2 seasons combined. If you look at Christian Fittipaldi. Here's a look at the upcoming Kart FedEx Championship Series schedule. June 9th. Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey on the beautiful Monterey Peninsula at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. The G.I. Joe's 200 here on CBS, followed at the end of the month by the Grand Prix of Chicago. The Molson Indy Toronto, a temporary circuit in that beautiful Canadian city. You'll also see that on CBS on July 7th. On the 14th, an amazing race at Burke Lakefront Airport, flat out for 2 hours at the Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland. And on July 28th, the Molson Indy Vancouver. Another showcase temporary circuit in a beautiful Canadian city.
Paul Tracy, Bob, might now be thinking of the first time he jumped into this Lola, and he was dominant like he is now, and they had a right front wheel bearing brake. Right now they have not been able to get the replacement parts that they need. They had hoped that the forces, because this track is so much slower, would not be as big or as high that they could make it through. Right now, Paul Tracy, I bet you, was waiting and hoping that that front right wheel bearing stays intact and stays under him.
5 laps ago, Paul Tracy turned in his quick lap of the race. Adrian Fernandez, Max Pappas, Christian Fittipaldi, all of these drivers lapping very, very quickly in the late going here.
Tracy's engineer is Steve Chalice. They have a very close relationship. They understand now each other. Steve Chalice, of course, was the engineer. He's also Canadian engineer for Greg Moore. They were all such good friends. Steve Chalice's boys, his young boys, are racing go-karts at places like Whiteland in Indiana. And guess whose chassis they run? A PK, a PT. Paul Tracy designed and built go-kart.
Tracy's lead now 1.6 seconds over Adrian Fernandez. Should either man go on to win this race, or Max Pappas, Christian Fittipaldi, Michel Jourdain, Scott Dixon, anyone all the way back to Michael Andretti in 7th place, it will give us our 4th different winner in as many races to open the 2002 Kart FedEx Championship Series season.
Mad Max, Bob, is doing a great job. I mean, this team does not have the resources. They do not have the wherewithal to run at the front on a regular basis. They do not have the ability to go testing. And Max comes in here, and now regularly he takes this team from the back to the front. So, I mean, a good result here by Mad Max might mean a huge injection of enthusiasm and maybe sponsorship for the rest of the season. Tom Waringa owns this team. He also has an Atlantic team that will run here this weekend. But Mad Max Pappas, again, living up to his reputation.
Well, everybody thought it was such a fluke when he wound up finishing 3rd at the Grand Prix of Long Beach behind Michael Andretti and Jimmy Vasser. But Mad Max is for real, and he is lifting this team. Now let's check out driving style in the 1st and 2nd place cars. Paul Tracy on the left, Adrian Fernandez on the right.
Steering wheel held in a similar position. Tracy's car, if anything, if you look at his steering, just watch his hands across here. Tracy's is a lot livelier than if you look over here at Fernandez. The movements in Tracy's steering wheel seem to be a lot more back and forth than Adrian Fernandez.
Coming around on 30 laps to go in the race.
30 long laps for Paul Tracy. 1.7 seconds now in the lead, and the gap is growing bigger and bigger as these laps run on here. Tracy is definitely in control. Cristiano D'Amato, we have a press release. He's about to come in for pit stop number 22.
Fuel only.
There's something wrong here, obviously, because they can't get fuel into the car. He keeps stopping for short fills on fuel. So obviously, this team, who is one of the best, one of the very best teams here, not having a good day, making fuel stop after fuel stop.
Which is interesting because D'Amato won the first race of the year in Monterey. Paul Tracy pitted out of sequence, got all the way up to 2nd place, and then recall what felled him on that day? Fuel pickup problem. They couldn't get it in the car. To Jan Bikus.
With Don Halliday, who makes the shots, calls the shots for Adrian Fernandez. Can you catch Paul Tracy?
Well, we think we can probably catch him. Whether we can overtake him or not is another question. It's very difficult to overtake right now.
Your car's been dominant through all the practice and qualifying. What happened now today? Seems like Tracy's the man to beat.
Yeah, I think the lot cooler conditions probably didn't suit our car as well. So we probably lost the 3 or 4 tenths advantage we had. So.
All right, well, hope you can catch him and we get a good race out of it. Thank you, Don.
Thanks.
You ride with Adrian Fernandez. Basically all down to the drivers at this point. CBS Auto Racing Series coverage of the Miller Lite 250 will continue after this message. A word from your local station. Tonight on 60 Minutes, where did Leslie Stahl find and talk to one of the world's most wanted terrorists? In Iraq. Find out why Saddam Hussein made him available and what he told her, all tonight on 60 Minutes. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile. Paul Tracy still leads by 1.7 seconds over Adrian Fernandez. Our pictures being brought to you live from the Honda Skycam high above this fabled 1 mile oval. Bob Barsha and Derek Daly, glad to have you with us. Ralph Shaheen and Jan Bikus in the pit lane. 18 laps to go, and there is Paul Tracy, who has simply held this race by the throat with some commanding driving and perfect pit execution. There's Adrian Fernandez trying to run him down.
It has now gone to 1.9 seconds. We monitor every lap here. 23.2, 23.3 is about the speed both of these cars are doing. As we look back, we look for a challenge from Michael Andretti and from Kenny Brack. They are in the high 23s, so they are not moving forward. They are not moving forward. Tracy, on sheer speed alone, still has control of this.
Kenny Brack, who led a number of laps, went to the back of the pack to complete a pit stop, got good fortune with the yellow flags. But he is mired in 8th place. 8 cars on the lead lap. Brack, the defending champion of the Miller Lite 250, is the last of those. There is Adrian Fernandez's girlfriend, Simone. And she looks like he probably feels right now. What am I going to do with this guy, Paul Tracy? Tracy hasn't won in 28 stops in Kart FedEx Championship Series competition. If it can end that drought right now, it'll be his third win at Milwaukee, putting him third behind Michael Andretti and Tom Sneva on the all-time Milwaukee Champ Car list.
That is Paul Tracy's girlfriend. We might have given Fernandez's girlfriend a new name. It's in fact Michelle. I believe her name is Michelle.
Well, that's what he gets when he doesn't bring her around to introduce her to him.
Exactly. But Paul Tracy hanging on here now. If he wins, and if he won the Indy 500, that would make a round number of 10, because 9 Indy 500 winners have come to Milwaukee and gone on to win this one. There's such an emotional high about being successful at the Indy 500 that teams usually manage to carry it on, or quite often manage to carry it on.
That was once the all-time hot ticket among open-wheel racing fans. Catch the Indianapolis 500 one Sunday and then come on up to Milwaukee to watch the Champ Cars run the following weekend.
And of course, that's only if he wins Milwaukee and if he won Indy. That's his mother also. They're on the left-hand side. His mother, of course, Tony, his dad. His mother is Vivian. Both from Ireland. Good, great place to be from.
I'm staying away from names entirely. You just keep going.
But you know what? And for those of you watching through our visor view here, I know it's easy to see. You see him gear changing, but that is actually right in front of his nose is the blue fireproof material on his helmet right here. That's all fireproof. This is his visor strip here. This basically, not only does it carry the cool sponsorship, but they use it as a sun shield, literally like a sun shield on your vehicle. If the sun comes down too low, he would put it down here, down lower. So great onboard view here from our visor cam on Paul Tracy.
Pretty busy in the cockpit there, cracking the visor, playing with the anti-roll bars with the brake bias.
To close up, Bob. It's now 1.1 seconds. So as you can see, Tracy taking a little bit easier. I don't believe, well, he did a 23.9 on the last lap, lost 2/10 to Fernandez. I still think he's in control.
9 laps to go in the race.
Oh, Vivian doesn't like the pressure of the situation here. Mommy Bear doesn't like this. This is pressure.
Visibly drawing closer is Adrian Fernandez. He coming across the stripe. We'll check the gap.
Oh,
coming down.
9/10 of a second. It is 9/10 of a second. While the boys race here, D'Amato pits again, but Paul Tracy is now less than a second ahead of Adrian Fernandez. He has lost time on the last 4 laps in a row, has Paul Tracy.
7 laps to go.
That was Don Halliday. Don Halliday, who's in fact a partner. Oh, he's getting closer, Bob. He appears to begin to get closer, and he's bringing Pappas with him. Pappas is not that far behind Adrian Fernandez.
Meanwhile, Cristiano D'Amato just hit double figures in pit stops with his 10th.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm out of fingers. We'll have to go to toes now.
Back up to it just over a second, so Tracy might now be able to control it.
The car still performing well. Very little steering input from Adrian Fernandez. Coming up on 5 to go.
Oh, he's in traffic. He is in traffic. Oh. This is the opportunity that Fernandez might want. D'Amato pulls way out of the way. Professional move.
Clear.
Difficult point to catch him on the racetrack there. On board with Fernandez.
That was a spotter you heard. He said, "You're clear. You're clear." That was for Adrian.
4 laps to go.
Oh, 4 to go, and he's closer. He's now down to 7/10 of a second. He has not been this close for the last 50 laps.
More traffic. That's Bruno Junqueira ahead on the road for Paul Tracy. 3 to go. Next time by.
He has controlled the whole weekend here, and he's got to make his way past some traffic.
The crowd now on its feet. as Paul Tracy will come around to face 2 laps to go, and Adrian Fernandez continues to try to claw back the gap.
This will also be Fernandez's best result, even if he just stays in this second place.
Well, we will certainly have our 4th different winner in as many races in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. 2 laps to go for Paul Tracy, checking the gap in time, about 8/10. And just behind Fernandez is Max Papis.
And that is Simona. We finally got her right. Simona, Paul Tracy's girlfriend. It's closing in. It's now 0.6 of a second. There is Tracy. Papis is right behind Fernandez.
1 lap to go, this time by the grandstand. White flag for Paul Tracy. For Fernandez, for Papis, running closely together. There is Mad Max. Another terrific performance by the Sigma Autosport team.
The traffic might be far enough ahead for Paul not to be bothered. I
think it is. I think it is. Paul Tracy looking for his 3rd win on the Milwaukee Mile and a place in history as the 3rd winningest driver at this fabled track. Checkered flags for Tracy.
There you go, girls. Now you can celebrate.
Unofficially, Fernandez in 2nd, Papis in 3rd, Christian Fittipaldi with a great run to 4th, followed by Michel Jourdain Jr., Scott Dixon, Michael Andretti in 7th, Kenny Brack 8th, losing on that pit gamble, Jimmy Vasser 9th, and Bruno Giacchera in 10th.
What a great win for Team Green, the hardest working team in motor racing right now.
Well, the Kart FedEx Championship Series may be the most difficult driving challenge in all of motorsports. With the wide variety of tracks they visit, case in point, Paul Tracy, victory on the oval today, his last win on a temporary circuit in Vancouver in 2000. We'll be back for the post-race festivities. Welcome back. There is Paul Tracy, having climbed from the winning car in the Miller Lite 250, and Ralph Shaheen is there.
Well, no questions about this one, Paul. You absolutely dominated the race today. What made the difference for you?
Well, very motivated since last week. I told my guys before the start of the race, hey, I haven't won a race in a week, man. We got to get the job done today. So really happy for the job the Team Cool Green did. We got to thank our sponsors, obviously, Bridgestone, Honda, Klein Tools. They're great sponsors for us. And we got a new sponsor on the car, which is Jim Beam today. So it's a great effort for the whole team. And we just want to say hi to my Kurt Guy crew. Our condolences to your dad. We want you back as soon as possible. We missed you here on this one.
You told me yesterday that what you experienced with the team last week really united the team. How different was it this weekend after everything that happened at Indy?
We've been a united group ever since Japan, and we got a lot of motivation. I'm very motivated, and I hope this is we got the ball rolling now. We've had 3 really good races in a row, and looking forward to some more.
Congratulations to Jan Bikus.
With Adrian Fernandez. And Adrian, it was very close at the end, but it seemed like maybe this race came down to the start. Your view on the start?
I can't believe they waved the green flag. When I was into the start, I saw Paul Tracy way ahead of me. So I didn't even, I was not even going to take the flag. I actually back up, and suddenly, the green flag is on. I just couldn't believe it. I went to 5th or 6th, something like that. I was not in full throttle, so I'm pretty disappointed about that, because I think that was the key for winning or losing the race, since passing was so difficult and the marbles was playing a huge issue on the track. So we take 2nd. I'm very happy for Fernandez Racing. Great performance all week and very consistent, and we get them next time.
All right, well, congratulations. Sounds like you got a few words you want to give to the stewards. Thank you.
Well, we'll reiterate once again, we checked with the stewards. They said it was a green flag, green start, legal start. When the flag's in the air, everybody's on the gas. Unofficial results, Paul Tracy, long victory drought now ends here at Milwaukee. Adrian Fernandez 2nd. Great run for Max Papis in 3rd. And Michel Jourdain Jr. in 4th picks up his 4th consecutive Jourdain in 5th picks up his 4th consecutive top 5 finish of the '02 season. That's the kind of thing that championship contenders are made of. We'll take a quick break and return live to the Milwaukee Mile for more in a moment. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile. You see Paul Tracy's victorious car being pushed into victory lane, where the festivities will continue. Right now, let's get down to Jan Bikus.
At the moment, I am standing with the new point leader in the Kart Championship, Michel Jourdain. Was that a surprise to you, pulling in and getting that great news?
Well, yes, it's very good, to be
to be leading the points. You know, it's a long way to go in the championship, but I'm very happy. The whole Gigante, of Zippo, everybody, and Team Brejal is giving me great tools, you know, the best equipment, the best pit stop, the best strategy, and that makes your life a lot easier, you know.
Well, a lot of people up and down pit road talking about Michel Jourdain. Let's get up the pit road to Ralph Shaheen.
Max Pappas, let me congratulate you on a fine run today and tell you you are now tied for third in the point standings. How does this underfunded team keep doing this?
I tell you, we have a lot of will. This is fantastic. This is just a, it's a miracle. With so little, we've done so much. It's a proof that keep pushing hard. My team push harder, and hopefully, this is a proof that we deserve to have a strong and great success.
Bob, I think it also proves there's a lot of talent in this young man and a lot of heart.
No question about that. The Italian stallion lives. Total contributions now by Team Green, and Paul Tracy's victory today total $38,000 to the 100 Black Men of America program, bringing computers and internet connections into the inner city. $10,000 bonus for winning the race. Right now, Paul Tracy is sitting on top of the world.
He is, and as you look down through the results, the gamble of the race was Kenny Brack. It didn't come off. The save of the race was Scott Dixon, because he saved the car from a lot of damage. Emotional drive of the race, definitely Pappas, but the drive of the race, you can't argue with what Paul Tracy did today, despite what Adrian Fernandez thinks about that start.
As the trophies are distributed and the celebrations continue, I'll give you a quick rundown on the points. Michel Jourdain Jr. now with 42, Dario Franchitti 35, Max Pappas 32, strong in the championship. Paul Tracy leaps up from 15th to 4th, also with 32 points, and Michael Andretti drops back to 5th with 28 points. Paul Tracy simply dominated the race today, leading 184 of the 250 laps. A great, great showing. So for Derek Daly, Ralph Shaheen, and Jan Bikas, I'm Bob Varsha. Time to say so long from the Milwaukee Mile, where Paul Tracy has won the Miller Lite 250. Be sure to join us in 2 weeks when the Kart FedEx Championship Series on CBS continues with the G.I. Joe's 200 from Portland, Oregon. Coming up next, it's final round coverage of the PGA Tour's Kemper Insurance Open. Until then, so long, everyone, from Milwaukee. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports.